Karl Marx and Capital. Critique of political economy, spotting the true value of a product in modern business. Karl Marx began Capital. Critique of political economy, with an analysis of the product, which he called the elementary form of wealth. And although more than 100 years have passed, his ideas sound strikingly fresh when you look at them through the lens of today's economy, startups, and online trade. Product, from bread to digital goods. Marx wrote, "A product is a thing that, through its qualities, satisfies all sorts of human needs." Today, thing can mean not only physical objects like clothes or food, but also digital products, apps, online courses, subscriptions to different services. Your product can satisfy the needs of the stomach, like a meal from a delivery service, or the needs of the imagination, like Netflix or a mobile game. For any business, this is key. The clearer you are about which need your product fulfills, the greater your chances of success. Use value, why your product matters to people. Marx stressed that use value comes from the real benefit of the product. The usefulness of a thing makes it a use value. For you as a founder, this is a direct hint: don't create a product just for the sake of producing something. If your business is a cafe, people come not only for the caffeine but also for the atmosphere, comfort, and fast Wi-Fi. If you sell an online course, the value isn't in the videos themselves but in the skills and results the customer gains. Today, marketing often focuses less on the product's features and more on the customer's benefit, not "we have trainers, but you run faster and more comfortably." Exchange value, price as the market's mirror. Marx observed, exchange value appears as the quantitative relation in which products are exchanged for one another. In business terms, the price of your product isn't just the sum of your costs, it reflects how the market perceives it. The same smartphone can cost twice as much simply because there's a strong brand or innovative tech behind it. In 2025, a price is shaped by factors such as scarcity, limited collections, unique NFTs, or exclusive services. Production time, the faster and cheaper you produce, the more flexible your pricing can be. Social value, a product can become more expensive thanks to trends, like eco-friendly materials or local production. Labor as the source of value. One of Marx's key points. The value of a product is determined by the amount of labor necessary for its production. Today this matters especially for freelancers and entrepreneurs. Your working time is also a product. A designer might spend 10 hours on a project, but the price is set by the average market rate, not by personal effort. If competitors can do the same job faster or through automation, your real value drops. That's why increasing productivity is vital. Use AI, streamline processes, and upskill your team. Example: diamonds and startups. Marx used diamonds as an example. Their high price comes from their rarity and the effort needed to extract them. Today, that's like startups with unique technology. If your product is hard to copy, say, a proprietary AI algorithm, its value is higher than simple imitations. But once a new technology appears that enables cheap synthetic diamonds, the price falls. The same applies to any company that fails to evolve. A breakthrough can crash an entire market. Lessons for entrepreneurs. Marx's ideas, brought into the 21st century, offer some practical tips. 1. Create real value. Your product must solve a specific need, not just exist. 2. Optimize work. Automation and delegation are key to cutting costs. 3. Follow trends. The market's exchange value changes constantly. Today it's sustainability, tomorrow it might be AI. 4. Protect uniqueness. What's hard to copy will always hold more value. See your product through Marx's eyes, a mix of usefulness and labor. But sell it using modern marketing rules, emotion, branding, and the experience you give customers. That's exactly where the real magic of capitalism happens. The double nature of work, this is how you spot the real value of your business. Every product is not just an object, but a mix of usefulness and labor. Marx called this the dual character of a product: use value, the real benefit for people, and exchange value, how much it can be traded or sold for. But behind this idea lies something even more important for any entrepreneur: the double nature of the work that creates the product. Useful work, what the customer pays for. The work expressed in the usefulness or use value of the product, we call useful work. Put into today's terms, useful work is the part of your effort that the customer actually sees. For a designer, it's the finished logo. For a baker, the fresh bread on the shelf. For a programmer, the working code that solves a client's problem. Your product can be physical, like a suit, or digital, like an online course, but in both cases, the useful work is what creates use value. This usefulness is what decides whether people buy your product or service. Abstract work, the hidden basis of price. Marx also showed that behind this usefulness stands another reality. In the end, every productive activity, no matter how useful, is an expenditure of human labor. This is abstract work, the time and effort that go into production. For a business, this means whether you sew a suit or build an app, if both take the same amount of time and resources, their economic value can be similar. When you optimize processes, automate tasks, or raise productivity, you shorten working time and cut costs, even if the quality stays the same. Division of labor, the engine of the modern economy. Marx pointed out that the variety of products is only possible thanks to the social division of labor. The total of all use values corresponds to an equally varied total of useful labors, differing in kind, class, and family. Today, it's obvious. Your smartphone is the result of engineers, programmers, designers, marketers, and logistics experts all over the world. An online business couldn't exist without coders, copywriters, ad specialists, and customer support. For you as an entrepreneur, the message is clear: delegation and specialization increase your company's value. The deeper and more professional your chain of specialists, the more use values are created, and the higher your company's market value. Practical example: suit, fabric, and modern marketplaces. Marx compared a suit with fabric and showed that its value depends on the labor invested. If the value of a suit is twice as high as that of 10 meters of fabric, then 20 meters of fabric equal the value of a suit. Today you see this on marketplaces. A premium t-shirt can cost as much as 2 basic ones, even if the fabric costs are similar. The difference lies in the work of designers, marketers, and brand power. The company earns not from the material, but from the value of the labor turned into a unique product. Productivity and the value paradox. A fascinating point, directly linked to startups and production companies. Any change in productive power that increases the amount of use values created by labor reduces their value. In business terms, if you find a way to produce twice as much in the same time, say through automation, you have more products, but their market value can drop because the labor time per unit is lower. That's why companies with strong automation, like Tesla or Amazon, can cut prices and still stay profitable. Complex work as a value multiplier. Marx wrote that complex work is simple work multiplied by a certain quantity. Today you can clearly see this. Developing a unique AI product demands far more knowledge and skill than, say, basic web design. 1 hour of a top developer's work can be worth as much as a full day of an average specialist. For you as an entrepreneur, the takeaway is clear: invest in complex work, education, technology, rare skills. They create more value and allow higher prices. The double nature of work is the key to understanding how value is created. For a modern business, this isn't abstract philosophy but a practical strategy. Look not only at the final product, but at the labor behind every object, every service, and every brand. How price comes to life, the hidden secret of real value. We've already seen that every product is not just an object, but a mix of usefulness and labor. Yet for your product to truly live in the economy, being useful isn't enough. It has to exist in 2 forms at once. Products appear as useful objects and as embodiments of value. Today this is clearer than ever. A smartphone, an online course, or even an NFT give customers real benefits, but they also carry a hidden value that lies not in the material itself, but in social recognition. This double nature decides how much people are willing to pay for your product. Price is a mirror of labor, not just costs. Marx said that in the value form not a single atom of matter exists. That means the value of a product can't be measured by its physical weight. Modern business proves it everywhere. Startups with minimal costs can be worth millions, thanks only to the idea and the team. Fashion brands sell a t-shirt for £100 not because of the fabric, but because of the designer and the marketing. Software and apps have almost no physical form, yet their price reflects thousands of hours of human labor and unique know-how. Price isn't a simple sum of costs, it's the amount of work and the social value the market recognizes. Relationships between products exchange as the language of value. For value to speak, one product must meet another. Through the value relationship, the natural form of a product becomes the mirror of another's value. In business, you see this in every exchange. The price of advertising on Instagram depends not only on demand but on how much entrepreneurs are willing to pay for the audience's attention. A cryptocurrency gets its price only in comparison to other currencies and products. Even startup deals are value swaps, where a marketer's work can equal the creation of a website. Every sale is a small equation where your product finds an equivalent. It's not just a transaction but social recognition that your work is worth as much as someone else's. Relative form and equivalent form, who acts in the market. In every transaction there are two roles. Relative form, the product that expresses its value, for example, your product. Equivalent form, what shows that value, for example, money or another product. In practice it's like a negotiation between company and customer. When you sell a service for money, your product is active, it tells its value. Money stays silent, it simply confirms that the work done has a price. Important to grasp, a product can't be both the measure and the measurement. If you price your product in pounds, the pound itself can't at the same time depend on your price. Practical example, marketplaces and dynamic prices. Marx gave the example, 20 meters of fabric equals 1 suit. Today's market makes this equation flexible. When raw material costs rise, marketplaces instantly adjust prices. Amazon's algorithms compare products and calculate new equivalents every minute. Even for services, if competitors cut prices, your suit is automatically re-evaluated by the market. The lesson for your business, your price is always a relationship, never a constant. It depends on the market, competitors, and the speed of your production. Labor productivity equals growth driver. Marx wrote, if the necessary labor time for production is halved, value falls in the same proportion. In practice this means automation and AI lower the cost per unit, letting you cut prices while outpacing competitors. If you produce faster without losing quality, the relative value may drop, but higher volume can bring more profit. Companies that adopt new tech faster create new value equations and secure market leadership. Lesson for entrepreneurs. To thrive in the economy, you have to see your product not only as an object but as a social relationship. Price is not just the result of costs, it's the language your business uses to talk to the market. Create not just useful products, but value that society recognizes. Remember, every exchange proves how much your work is worth compared to others. Boost productivity so that the equation always works in your favor. Analyze not only your costs but also what your product competes with on the market. Your product is worth as much as it measures up to the labor behind others, whether in design, technology, or the unique experience you offer. Equivalence today, how value exchange works in modern business. Every product has two sides, usefulness and value. Marx called this the dual nature of the product and stressed that a work result exists both as a use object and as a carrier of human-created value. Today, this idea is especially relevant for any business. Every product, whether sneakers or a digital service, must not only be useful but also have an equivalent, so it can be exchanged for money, services, or other goods. What is an equivalent in modern business? Marx wrote, the material shows its value only through the relation in which another product forms an equation with it. In his example, the fabric speaks its price through the suit. Today, the principle is similar for any product or service, only now the suit is replaced by money, likes, subscriptions, shares, or even cryptocurrencies. Example, your online marketing course only has value when someone exchanges money or time for it, e.g., via subscription or sharing. Example, a blogger with 1 million followers doesn't just have a number, but also an equivalent for future advertising deals. The equivalent is this mirror form through which the world recognizes your product as valuable. Money as a universal equivalent. In the past, equivalents were other products, fabric for a suit, grain for iron. Today, money plays this role as the universal equivalent. Its core remains the same, it's just the form in which the labor embedded in your product is expressed. Digital services like Uber or Airbnb don't just sell a ride or a night in a flat, but package time and human labor. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies also work as equivalents, only decentralized. Social value and the brand magic. Marx emphasized. The natural form of products becomes the form of their value. Today this is obvious with premium brands. A t-shirt for £100 isn't heavier than one for 20. But society recognizes the brand's value, turning simple cotton into a high-priced good. Apple sells not just a smartphone, but a symbol of status and innovation. Supreme turns a simple hoodie into an equivalent of rarity and exclusivity. Remember, value arises not only in production but also in social perception. Relative and equivalent form, how it works in the market. In every transaction there are two roles. Relative form, the product expressing its value, e.g., your service or product. Equivalent form, what measures this value, e.g., money, shares, subscriptions. If you offer your product on a marketplace, you are active, you explain to the market why it's worth its price. The customer's money is a silent equivalent, simply confirming your value. Labor productivity equals value growth. Marx said that value depends on the labor time needed to make a product. If the necessary labor time decreases, value decreases in the same proportion. For modern businesses, this means automation and AI lower unit costs and make your product more competitive. Speed to market becomes a value factor, faster production allows you to offer a better equivalent for exchange. Modern examples of equivalent exchange. Cryptocurrencies, NFTs have no physical form, yet their value depends on the artist's work and others' willingness to pay for digital ownership. Subscription services, Netflix or Spotify sell not individual films or songs, but access to the work of thousands of people, bundled into a monthly fee. Freelance platforms, the work of a programmer in India and a designer in Spain becomes comparable because the market values their work in a universal unit. Key insight for you as an entrepreneur. The equivalent form shows the value of your product is always social. To grow your business, create not only a useful product but also social recognition for its value. Watch what the market uses to measure your work, money, time, attention, or trust. Boost your productivity so your product remains a strong equivalent in exchange. As Marx said, even the simple equation 20 meters of fabric equals 2 suits hides the secret of value. In the 21st century, this secret is in every startup idea, every brand, and even every like. You just need to learn to read this market equation. Spotting the true value of your product in modern business. In earlier examples like 20 meters of fabric equals 1 suit, it looked like simple exchange arithmetic. Today, such formulas appear in every business, only now services, technologies, and brands replace the fabric. The main idea remains, the value of a product isn't determined by random exchange, but by the work invested in it and how the market perceives that effort. It is clear that it is not exchange that determines the magnitude of value, but the magnitude of value that determines exchange relations. Translated into modern business language, this means, the price of your product isn't arbitrarily set by a customer or competitor. Value comes from your investments, quality, exclusivity, marketing, and trust in your brand. An iPhone and a mid-range smartphone may have similar features, but the work of Apple's designers, engineers, and marketers turns the product into a universal equivalent for status and style. Universal equivalent in the real economy. In the classical text, fabric becomes the product by which the value of everything else is measured. Today it can be money, gold, oil, or even cryptocurrencies. For a business, it's crucial to find its own fabric product, an offering that becomes the standard for competitors. Logistics services, Amazon has become the benchmark for speed and convenience in delivery, and other companies now compare their results to Amazon. Technology product, Tesla set the reference for electric cars, and even large traditional automakers must express their value compared to Tesla. The principle remains the same. Once your product becomes the comparison point, you gain not only sales but also social recognition. How to use this logic for your business? As an entrepreneur, it's not just about making a product or service, but creating social value, something others recognize as a standard. To do this: 1. Invest in exclusivity. If your cafe offers drinks no competitor can copy, you turn them into an equivalent for taste and quality. 2. Create clear metrics. A delivery service can express its value in speed and reliability, criteria customers can easily compare. 3. Work on your brand. Your name should instantly trigger a certain value association. Products show not only qualitative equality but also quantitative value differences. Today this means customers compare not just what it is but also how much better it is. That's why you need clear criteria like speed, quality, design, or guarantees. Human labor as the basis of all value. Ultimately, it all comes down to one idea: value is always human labor. Even in a world with AI and automation, it's not just the product that matters, but also the intellectual and emotional investment of the people behind it. Programmers, designers, marketers, their energy transforms an idea into a product that others recognize as a reference. When you start a business, ask yourself, how does my product reflect the work and time invested? What unique feature makes others compare themselves to me? How can I turn my work into social recognition? If you understand these principles, your business is no longer just a product on the market. It becomes a reference point around which other players organize. That's exactly what turns an ordinary product into a source of power, money, and long-term success. If you want to keep unlocking big economic ideas and turning them into practical business strategies, subscribe to the channel. Here we turn classic theory into growth for your business.